They mocked her the moment she walked in. Just another middle-aged woman in a worn-out jacket who didn't belong among the elite military recruits. The snickers grew louder as she silently made her way across the room. But when her sleeve shifted, revealing a faded patch most civilians would miss entirely, everything changed. The four-star general stopped mid-sentence, approached her with measured steps, and removed his cap. In complete silence, he rendered a perfect salute. The laughter died instantly. Those who had been joking moments before felt a chill run down their spines. They had no idea who she really was. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If this story resonates with you, consider subscribing to honor those whose greatest sacrifices remain unknown to most of us. The morning light filtered through the reinforced windows of Fort Meridian Special Operations Command Center, casting sharp rectangles across the polished floor of the commissary. Lieutenant Bryson Halford adjusted his pristine uniform collar, surrounded by fellow recruits who hung on his every word. "So, I told Commander Renwick, with all due respect, sir, that approach would leave our right flank exposed," Halford said, mimicking the commander's disapproving scowl to the amusement of his audience. Corporal Zephyr Quinn leaned forward. "And you're still breathing?" "Top of my class at tactical assessment. He knew I was right." The automatic doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss, momentarily drawing Halford's attention. A woman entered, late 40s, hair pulled back in a practical tie that revealed streaks of silver among the dark. She wore faded jeans, worn boots, and a military field jacket that had clearly seen better days. Its olive green had faded to an indeterminate shade, patches of wear at the elbows telling stories the woman herself wasn't sharing. Halford nudged Quinn. "Looks like someone's aunt got lost looking for the family tour." Quinn stifled a laugh, glancing at the woman's jacket. "Surplus store special. Think she knows this is a restricted area?" The woman moved through the space with quiet purpose, seemingly oblivious to the curious glances and barely concealed smirks. Her eyes, observant and calculating, scanned the room methodically as she headed toward the far wall where the memorial display showcased unit insignias and honors behind protective glass. Sergeant First Class Darian Webb, a drill instructor whose very presence usually corrected posture within a 20-foot radius, approached her with professional concern. "Ma'am, this area requires clearance. Can I assist you with finding your way out?" The woman turned slightly, her weathered face neither angry nor apologetic. "I'm where I need to be." She returned her attention to the display case containing modern special operations patches and honors. Webb's jaw tightened at the dismissal. He shot a look toward Halford and the other recruits, who were now openly watching the interaction. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification, or I'll have to escort you from the premises." "In a moment," she replied, her finger hovering near a particular section of the display. A chronological arrangement showing the evolution of tactical team insignias over the decades. Her focus settled on a gap in the timeline between 2008 and 2016, where no insignia appeared. The commissary doors opened again, and Master Sergeant Octavia Rendell strode in, digital tablet in hand. Unlike Webb's confrontational approach, Rendell carried herself with the efficient certainty of someone whose authority came from competence rather than volume. "Attention!" Webb called. The recruit snapped to perfect posture, Halford at the front. The unknown woman remained focused on the display case, seemingly ignoring military protocol altogether. Rendell noticed immediately. "Ma'am, this briefing is classified. I'll need to see your credentials." The woman turned slowly. Something in her posture, the precise way she distributed her weight, the economy of movement, made Rendell hesitate. Halford stepped forward. "She was just leaving, Sergeant. Probably wandered in from the civilian tour." The woman met Halford's gaze with such intensity that he instinctively straightened his posture further, not intimidated exactly, but responding to something primal that recognized a predator. She reached for a cup of coffee on a nearby table, her sleeve riding up to reveal a faded but distinctive scar pattern, 3 parallel marks that disappeared up her forearm. Rendell's eyes widened slightly. "Have you been to this facility before, ma'am?" Rendell asked, her tone shifting to cautious curiosity. "The buildings change," the woman replied. "The mission doesn't." Webb, uncomfortable with the breach of protocol, stepped forward. "I'll escort her out." As he approached, the woman shifted her weight almost imperceptibly, a subtle adjustment that most wouldn't notice. But Rendell did, and quickly raised her hand. "Stand down, Sergeant." Webb looked confused but complied. The silence was broken when a folded document slipped from the woman's jacket pocket as she reached again for her coffee. It hit the floor with a soft pat, an aged, creased map with handwritten notations. Halford, ever the opportunist, quickly retrieved it. He unfolded it partway, glanced at the contents, and his expression transformed from smug to stunned. "These are the Karvar Mountain coordinates from the 09 extraction," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That's classified. That's highly classified." He looked up at the woman with new uncertainty in his eyes. "Who are you?" Before she could answer, the commissary doors opened once more. General Everett Calloway entered with 2 aides flanking him. Silver-haired with a face etched by decisions that had cost lives, the 4-star general carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen too much to waste energy on unnecessary movement. The entire room stiffened to attention. "At ease," he said, his voice measured. "Master Sergeant Rendell, your report?" As Rendell began her update, Calloway's gaze drifted across the room, stopping abruptly on the woman still standing by the memorial display. His eyes narrowed, focusing on her with sudden intensity. The woman turned slightly, her movement causing her sleeve to shift and reveal a nearly invisible patch, tattered edges of what was once a midnight blue insignia with silver threading, partially concealed by a repair to the jacket. Calloway's face transformed from official to astonished in an instant. With a quick gesture, he dismissed his aides, who exchanged confused glances before complying. The general walked directly toward the woman, stopping 3 feet away. Every recruit watched in confusion as Calloway, a 4-star general with over 40 years of service, removed his cap and rendered a formal salute to this seemingly ordinary woman in a thrift store jacket. "Valkyrie Actual," he said quietly, but clearly enough for all to hear. "They told me you were dead." The woman returned the salute with precision that betrayed years of service. "Sometimes that's easier than the truth, General." Absolute silence fell across the commissary. Rendell's tablet clattered to the floor. Webb's face drained of color as recognition dawned, the code name from classified briefings he'd only heard whispered. Halford looked down at the map in his hands, then back up at the woman, Ilara Thorne, with dawning comprehension. "The Karvar extraction failed because someone leaked those coordinates," Ilara finally addressed the stunned room. "That's why I'm here. Someone in this command is compromised, and I've been reactivated to find them." 20 minutes later, the commissary had been cleared except for essential personnel. General Calloway stood with Ilara at a tactical display table, digital maps, and classified files projected before them. Master Sergeant Rendell operated the system, while Lieutenant Halford stood at attention nearby, still processing the revelation. "How many know you've been reactivated?" Calloway asked. 3, Ilara replied. "You, Director Langley, and whoever compromised Operation Stillwater last month." Calloway nodded grimly. "The attack signatures matched your team's extraction protocols exactly. Someone who knows your playbook is either selling information or directly involved." "My team is dead, General," Ilara said flatly. "At least, they were supposed to be." Calloway turned to Halford. "Lieutenant, what you're about to hear is classified beyond your current clearance. If you'd prefer not to burden yourself with information that could end your career if repeated, you can leave now." Halford swallowed but stood his ground. "I'd like to be of service, sir." "Very well." Calloway pulled up a classified file. "Before you stood Lieutenant Commander Ilara Thorne, Ghost Program, 7 confirmed operations that changed the course of 3 regional conflicts. Official record, deceased 2015. Actual record, classified beyond your clearance." Ilara studied the tactical display without emotion. "I didn't come for recognition. I came because someone's using my old playbook. The attack in Nasiriyah last week matched our extraction protocol exactly. Someone from my unit is either compromised or gone rogue." Halford found his voice. "If you've been reactivated, ma'am, why don't you wear a uniform?" Ilara's eyes remained on the display as she answered. "Because officially I don't exist. Never did." Her hand brushed the worn fabric of her jacket. This belonged to the only member of my team who came home in a flag-draped coffin. The rest of us came home in silence. Calloway expanded the tactical display, showing a timeline of recent attacks. We have 3 incidents in the past month that align with Ghost program methodologies. 2 intelligence outposts breached, and 1 supply convoy intercepted. 0 survivors, 0 witnesses, minimal physical evidence. That's our signature, Ilara confirmed, studying the display. Clean, quiet, and complete. Rendell cleared her throat. Commander, forgive my ignorance, but I've been at this command for 7 years. I've never heard of the Ghost program beyond whispers. That's how we know it worked, Ilara replied without looking up. The unit was officially designated Special Reconnaissance Unit 27. 8 operators with specialized skill sets, deployed for high-risk extraction, intelligence gathering, and occasional direct action in denied areas. Our missions never happened. Our casualties were attributed to training accidents or reassigned to other operations. How many survived? Halford asked. 4, she answered. 2 have been verified safe. 1 died of cancer 3 years ago. The 4th went dark after discharge. We've been tracking his movements, but nothing suspicious until now. Calloway nodded. Specialist Riker Vance, communications expert, language specialist. Last verified location was Bogota, 18 months ago. And you think he's the leak? Rendell asked. I don't think anything yet, Ilara replied, studying the operation maps. But I know our methods, and I know Vance. The tactical display shifted to personnel files, showing faces of officers currently stationed at Fort Meridian. Ilara pointed to several. These individuals had direct access to the Stillwater operation details. I need to interview each one personally. Some of those are senior officers, Rendell noted. They won't appreciate being questioned by someone they've never heard of. I don't care about their feelings, Ilara said flatly. I care about stopping whoever is using my team's methods to kill American personnel. Calloway sighed. I'll arrange it, but tread carefully, Commander. The military has changed since your active days. There are politics involved now that weren't factors before. Politics don't stop bullets, General. Ilara finally looked up from the display. Whoever is behind this will strike again, soon. They're recreating our operations in sequence. If the pattern holds, the next target will be a communications hub. Small team, maximum impact. We have 3 such facilities within reach, Rendell said, calling up a map. 2 domestic, 1 in Allied territory. Ilara studied them, then pointed to the one in Allied territory. Here, remote enough to limit immediate response, important enough to matter, but not so vital that it would trigger international crisis protocols. That's the Muranos outpost in northern Greece, Calloway confirmed. Relay station for Mediterranean operations. When can I see the full personnel files? Ilara asked. They're being compiled now, Rendell answered. Should be ready within the hour. Good. Ilara straightened. General, I need quarters on base, access to all secure areas, and a communication line to Director Langley. Already arranged? Calloway handed her an access card. Your biometrics have been entered into the system. As far as anyone is concerned, you're a special advisor from Intelligence Community Liaison, here to review security protocols. And Lieutenant Halford? Ilara glanced at the young officer who stood silently absorbing everything. Your choice, Calloway said. If you want him reassigned, say the word. Ilara assessed Halford for a long moment. No. I want him exactly where he is, with his friends and his routine unchanged. But I want him reporting directly to me about anything unusual he observes. Halford blinked in surprise, but nodded. Yes, ma'am. Dismissed, Lieutenant, Calloway ordered. Remember, not a word of this to anyone. After Halford left, Ilara turned back to the display. He'll talk to someone. They always do. You're counting on it, Calloway realized. Information moves in predictable patterns, General. I need to see how it flows here. She pulled up the map of the Muranos outpost again. Meanwhile, we should quietly strengthen security at this location without alerting the staff to any specific threat. Routine training exercise should do it. I'll make it happen, Rendell said, already typing orders into her tablet. Ilara stared at the display, her expression hardening. Someone thinks they can use my team's methods against us. They're about to learn why those methods worked so well in the first place. 2 days into her investigation, Ilara had established a temporary office in a rarely used conference room near the Tactical Operations Center. The walls were lined with personnel files and operational timelines. She had interviewed 12 staff members so far, including 3 senior officers who had made their displeasure at being questioned abundantly clear. Lieutenant Halford knocked on the open door, carrying a stack of additional files. "Commander Thorne, the intelligence assessments you requested." "Come in," she replied without looking up from the document she was studying. "Put them there." She gestured to an empty corner of the table. Halford placed the files down and hesitated. "May I ask a question, ma'am?" "You just did," Ilara replied, finally glancing up. "But you can ask another." "How did you know?" "About the leak, I mean. The official reports all classified the Karvar mission as compromised by local intelligence networks." Ilara leaned back in her chair, studying the young lieutenant. "Because I designed those extraction protocols myself. They accounted for local intelligence capabilities. The only way they could have been compromised so completely was through inside knowledge." "But that was 16 years ago," Halford said. "Why would someone wait so long to use that information?" "Good question." Ilara stood and walked to the map on the wall. "Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one with patience." The door opened again, and Master Sergeant Rendell entered. "Surveillance reports from Marinos Outpost just came in. Security detail noted a civilian vehicle making multiple passes near the perimeter yesterday." "Description?" Ilara asked immediately. "Dark sedan, diplomatic plates. Greek intelligence confirmed the plates belonged to a vehicle reported stolen 3 days ago." Ilara's expression hardened. "They're scouting. We need to move faster." She turned to Halford. "What have you heard around the base? Any gossip about my presence here?" Halford shifted uncomfortably. "People are talking. Most think you're from internal affairs investigating ethics violations. Some of the older officers seem nervous." "Names," Ilara demanded. "Colonel Savage, Major Weston, and Captain Laurier have all been acting different since you arrived. Canceling meetings, working late hours." Ilara made notes on her tablet. "Keep listening. Any mention of Karvar or Valkyrie operations?" "No, ma'am, nothing specific." "Good, dismissed." After Halford left, Rendell approached the timeline Ilara had constructed. "The pattern is accelerating. First attack was 6 weeks ago, second was 4 weeks later, third just 10 days after that." "They're gaining confidence," Ilara agreed. "Or responding to external pressure. We need to set a trap." "General Calloway won't authorize using Maranos as bait," Rendell warned. "I'm not suggesting we do." Ilara pulled up a new map on her tablet. "There's a secondary communications relay 30 miles from Maranos. Lower priority, minimal staffing. If we quietly transfer some of the Maranos traffic there and leak that information through the right channels, we might draw them out." "How do we know which channels to use?" Rendell asked. "We don't. That's why we create multiple leak points and see which one gets exploited." Ilara pulled up the personnel files of the 3 officers Halford had mentioned. "Each gets slightly different information. When the attackers strike, we'll know who talked." A sharp knock interrupted them as General Calloway entered, his expression grim. "Commander, we have a situation. Surveillance just picked up Riker Vance in Athens. Facial recognition is 87% confident." Ilara's head snapped up. "When?" 6 hours ago, exiting a cafe near the American embassy." "Did we track him?" "Lost him in the metro system." Calloway handed her a tablet showing the surveillance image. "Is it him?" Ilara studied the image of a bearded man in his 40s, sunglasses obscuring part of his face. Despite the changes time had brought, she recognized the way he carried himself. "It's Vance." "You're certain?" Rendell asked. "I spent 5 years in the field with him. I'd know his posture in a sandstorm." Ilara set the tablet down. "This confirms my suspicions. He's involved." "We can alert Greek authorities, have him detained for questioning," Calloway suggested. "No." Ilara's response was immediate. "If we move on him directly, we lose our chance to identify his network. Vance was never a planner, he was an executor. Someone else is pulling the strings." "You think there's a larger operation?" Rendell asked. "I know there is." Ilara pointed to the attack pattern map. These aren't random strikes. They're systematic dismantling of our intelligence infrastructure in the region. Someone with strategic vision is using Vance's tactical knowledge. Calloway nodded slowly. I'll authorize your trap at the secondary relay. How quickly can we implement? 24 hours. We need to make the information leak believable. Ilara turned to Rendell. I need a secure team ready to deploy on my command. 6 operators, full tactical gear, completely compartmentalized. I'll select them myself, Rendell confirmed. And I want Lieutenant Halford as my communication officer, Ilara added. Both Calloway and Rendell looked surprised. The lieutenant has minimal field experience, Rendell pointed out. Exactly. He has no connections to past operations, no preconceptions, and he's smart enough to follow orders without asking too many questions. Ilara met Calloway's questioning gaze. Plus, if there's an internal leak, the conspirators won't suspect him of being part of a trap. It's your operation, Calloway conceded, but if anything happens to him, there will be questions I can't deflect. Nothing will happen to him if he does exactly what I say. Ilara gathered her notes. I need access to the secured archives, Ghost Program operational records, specifically the Carvar extraction plan. Those files were purged years ago, Calloway said. The digital copies were purged. There are physical backups in the deep archive. Ilara's expression brooked no argument. Section 117, case file VK-09. Calloway's eyebrows rose. How could you possibly know that? Because I put them there before I disappeared. Ilara checked her watch. We have less than 36 hours before they hit Moranos. I need those files now. I'll take you there myself, Calloway agreed. 3 hours later, Ilara sat alone in the high-security archives room, surrounded by dusty case files that officially didn't exist. The physical evidence of the Ghost Program's operations had been meticulously preserved despite official orders to destroy all records. Someone had wanted a record to remain, hidden from digital searches but available if ever needed. The Carvar extraction file was particularly thick. The mission that had gone catastrophically wrong 16 years ago had resulted in the deaths of 3 team members and the eventual disbanding of the entire program. The official investigation blamed local intelligence services for the compromise, but Ilara had never accepted that conclusion. She flipped through operational maps, communication logs, and after-action reports until she found what she was looking for: the complete roster of support personnel who had knowledge of the operation. 27 names, most unfamiliar to her, as the Ghost Program operated with minimal outside contact. But 3 names caught her attention: Colonel Edgar Savage, then a major, Major Philip Weston, then a captain, Captain Amelia Laurier, then a lieutenant. All 3 currently stationed at Fort Meridian, all 3 acting strangely since her arrival, according to Halford. The door opened and Rendell entered. Team is assembled and briefed on the cover operation. Halford's been told only that he's supporting a counterintelligence exercise. Perfect. Ilara held up the file. I found our connection. All 3 officers Halford mentioned were support staff for the Carvar operation. Rendell's eyes widened. That can't be coincidence? In my experience, coincidences in intelligence work are usually evidence of insufficient investigation. Ilara closed the file. I want surveillance on all 3, immediately. Discreet, but thorough. Communications, movements, everything. That will require General Calloway's direct authorization. Then get it. Ilara stood, gathering the most crucial documents. And I want to meet with the tactical team in 1 hour. Later that evening, Ilara briefed the small team assembled in a secure conference room. 6 operators in civilian clothes sat attentively while Lieutenant Halford managed the communications equipment. None of them knew her true identity, having been told only that she was a special advisor coordinating a security exercise. The scenario is straightforward, she explained, displaying a map of the secondary relay station. We have intelligence suggesting a possible breach attempt at this facility within the next 48 hours. Your mission is to secure the site without alerting the regular security team that anything unusual is happening. Parameters of engagement? Asked one of the operators, a sergeant with a specialized marksman insignia. Non-lethal if possible, but full defensive authorization if the intruders use deadly force. Ilara made eye contact with each team member. To be clear, this is not an exercise. The threat is real, but classified. The operators exchange glances, their expressions hardening with understanding. Communications will be routed through Lieutenant Halford here. No regular channels. If you encounter any resistance from the station's usual security detail, use authentication code Sierra Victor 9. They have been briefed to comply without question. Halford looked up from his equipment. Ma'am, I've established the secure link to the relay station. We can monitor all approaches from here. Good. Ilara handed each operator a small device. These are specialized trackers. Attach them to any equipment or vehicles the intruders bring. They'll transmit location data for 72 hours before dissolving. As the briefing concluded and the operators filed out to prepare, Halford approached Ilara. Commander, permission to speak freely? Granted. This isn't just a security exercise, is it? We're setting a trap for whoever compromised the Karvar operation. Ilara studied him carefully. What makes you say that? The authentication code, Sierra Victor 9, SV9, Savage, Vance, 2009. Halford met her gaze without flinching. I saw the names in the files I brought you earlier. Instead of anger, Ilara felt a flicker of respect. Observant. That's good, but dangerous if you share those observations with the wrong people. I haven't said anything to anyone, Halford assured her, but if we're hunting traitors inside our own command, shouldn't you have more support? This feels like a skeleton crew for such a high-stakes operation. The smaller the circle, the less chance of compromise. Ilara checked her watch. Get your gear ready. We deploy in 3 hours. As Halford left, Rendell entered with a tablet displaying surveillance feeds. We have movement. Colonel Savage just made a call from an unregistered burner phone. Signal was bounced through multiple relays, but we tracked it to a server in Bucharest. Content? Encrypted. Tech team is working on it. Ilara nodded. Keep watching. The moment any of our 3 suspects makes a move towards secure communications or tries to leave the base, I want to know. There's more, Rendell said, lowering her voice. General Calloway received orders from Central Command questioning your authority here. Someone with high-level access is trying to have you recalled. Ilara's expression remained neutral, but her mind raced through the implications. How did the general respond? He's stalling, requesting clarification, but it won't hold for long. It doesn't need to. By this time tomorrow, we'll either have our traitor or be dead. Ilara turned back to the operational map. Make sure the team is ready. We move at midnight. Rain fell in sheets across the secondary communications relay station, 30 miles from the primary Maranos outpost. The facility sat nestled in a valley surrounded by pine forests, its satellite dishes and transmission towers glistening under the security lights. Inside the small operations room, Lieutenant Halford monitored communications, while Ilara studied the surveillance feeds. Perimeter sensors are all active, Halford reported. Team is in position around the compound. Ilara nodded, her attention fixed on the tree line to the north. They'll come from there. The approach offers the most cover and the easiest access to the primary power junction. How can you be sure? Halford asked. Because that's how I would do it. Ilara checked her watch. And that's how I trained Vance. The radio crackled. Overwatch to command, vehicle approaching from the north access road, lights off, moving slowly. Ilara picked up her handset. Hold positions. Let them make the first move. On the monitor, a dark van appeared briefly between tree cover, then disappeared again as it navigated the service road. Rain obscured the details, but the deliberate movement was unmistakable. They're earlier than expected, Halford noted. They changed their timeline because of the leak. Ilara's voice was calm. Good. That means they're nervous. Nervous operators make mistakes. The security feed showed 3 figures emerging from the van, moving in practiced formation toward the perimeter fence. Each wore tactical gear and night vision equipment. Strike team in sight, came the whispered report from one of their hidden operators. 3 tangos, armed with suppressed weapons, professional movement patterns. Hold, Ilara instructed. Wait until they breach the fence. I want to see their methodology. Halford shifted uncomfortably. Shouldn't we stop them before they get inside? We need to know who they're working with, Ilara explained. The trackers will lead us back to their handlers. They watched as the intruders quickly cut through the perimeter fence and moved with practiced precision toward the main building. Their movements were disciplined, coordinated, just as Alara had predicted. "Now," she said into the radio, "containment protocol, non-lethal if possible." The hidden operators emerged from their positions, surrounding the intruders with overwhelming force. There was a brief exchange of fire, the muffled pop of suppressed weapons cutting through the rain. One of the intruders went down immediately. Another took cover behind a generator housing. The third managed to retreat toward the tree line before being cornered. "Team 2, status!" Alara demanded. 2 tangos subdued, 1 wounded, non-critical. Third is running east through the trees. "Pursue and capture," Alara ordered. "Lieutenant, with me." She grabbed her tactical vest and headed for the door. Halford followed, struggling to keep up as they moved through the rain toward the captured intruders. By the time they reached the scene, the operators had secured both men and were administering first aid to the one who'd been shot in the shoulder. Alara approached the uninjured man, who sat on the ground with his hands zip-tied behind his back. She crouched in front of him, studying his face. "Where's Vance?" she asked directly. The man's eyes widened slightly at the name, but he remained silent. "Your operation is blown," Alara continued. "We knew you were coming. The only question now is whether you're going down alone or taking your employers with you." The man spat on the ground near her feet. "I've got nothing to say to you." Alara didn't react to the gesture. Instead, she pulled a document from her pocket and held it where the rain wouldn't damage it. Anton Kozlov, former Serbian Special Forces, mercenary for the past 8 years. She tucked the paper away. "You've worked for 3 different private military contractors, all with connections to a shell company called Meridian Consulting Group." The man's expression flickered with surprise. "Yes, we know who's paying you," Alara confirmed. "What we don't know is why they want American intelligence assets compromised. So, I'll ask again. Where is Riker Vance?" The radio crackled. "Command, Team 2, third suspect in custody, returning to rally point." "Copy," Alara replied without taking her eyes off Kozlov. "Lieutenant, make sure our guests are secure and the trackers are planted on all their equipment. I want their van processed completely." "Yes, ma'am." Halford moved off to coordinate with the other operators. 20 minutes later, all 3 intruders were secured in separate areas for questioning. The third man captured had been identified as another mercenary with similar background to Kozlov. Still no sign of Vance, but the equipment in their van contained communications devices programmed with frequencies matching those used by the Ghost program years earlier. Alara was examining these when her secure phone vibrated. The message from Rendell was brief. Savage moving. Heading to private airstrip outside Fort Meridian. Callaway authorizing intercept. She pocketed the phone and turned to Halford. "We need to move. Have Team 1 secure the site and process the prisoners for transport. You're coming with me." "What's happening?" Halford asked as they hurried toward their vehicle. "The real target is making a move," Alara explained, sliding behind the wheel. This was just a diversion. They drove in silence for several minutes, windshield wipers fighting the heavy rain. Finally, Halford spoke. "The mercenaries were supposed to draw our attention while something bigger happened elsewhere." "Exactly." Alara pressed harder on the accelerator. "Colonel Savage is attempting to leave the country. The timing is not coincidental." "You think he's the leak from 16 years ago?" "I think he's part of it." Alara's expression was grim. "But there's more to this than a single compromised officer." Back at Fort Meridian, Master Sergeant Rendell coordinated with security forces as they surrounded the private airfield 3 miles from the base. Colonel Savage's vehicle had been tracked to a hangar where a small private jet was preparing for departure. "No movement from the hangar," Rendell reported when Alara and Halford arrived. "Jet is fueled and filed a flight plan for Zurich. Departure scheduled in 20 minutes. "Who else is inside?" Alara asked, studying the hangar through binoculars. "Thermal imaging shows 3 individuals, pilot, Savage, and 1 unknown." Alara lowered the binoculars. "I need to get inside before they realize we're here." "We could surround the hangar, demand surrender," Rendell suggested. "No, if they feel cornered, they'll destroy evidence. I need to see who Savage is meeting." Alara checked her sidearm. Lieutenant Halford, you'll accompany me. Rendell, keep your team back unless I signal. That's against protocol, Rendell objected. This entire operation is against protocol, Alara replied. Halford, with me. They moved through the rain toward the back of the hangar, using the storm as cover. A service door stood partially open, light spilling onto the wet tarmac. Alara motioned for Halford to wait, then edged closer to listen. Two voices were arguing inside. One she recognized as Colonel Savage. The other was familiar in a way that made her blood run cold. They've already contained the team at the relay station, Savage was saying. We need to abort now. Get out before they connect everything. Calm down, Edgar. The second voice was controlled, authoritative. The secondary team is still in position at Moranos. The operation proceeds as planned. You don't understand. She's here. A pause. Who's here? Thorne, Alara Thorne, Ghost Program. Another pause, longer this time. That's not possible. Thorne was eliminated years ago. Well, she's very much alive and investigating the Carvar operation. She knows. Alara had heard enough. She signaled to Halford and they moved through the service door, weapons drawn. Hello, General, Alara said calmly. General Thomas Iskinder turned slowly, his surprise quickly masked by professional composure. Colonel Savage looked like he might collapse. Commander Thorne, Iskinder said, reports of your demise were apparently exaggerated. Unlike reports of your treachery, Alara replied, keeping her weapon steady. Lieutenant, secure Colonel Savage. Halford moved to comply, handcuffing the colonel, who offered no resistance. Iskinder smiled thinly. You always were direct, Alara. It's what made you effective, and predictable. Predictable enough to catch you fleeing the country. Fleeing? Iskinder chuckled. I'm conducting an inspection of our European facilities, all officially sanctioned. At a private airstrip in the middle of the night with a compromised officer, Alara kept her weapon trained on him. The mercenaries you hired were captured at the relay station. Their equipment contains Ghost Program communication protocols. Only someone with direct access to our operations could have provided those. Circumstantial at best, Iskinder replied. But even if what you suggest were true, what would be my motive? I created the Ghost Program. It was my life's work. Until it was shut down after Carvar, Alara said. A mission you personally authorized despite intelligence warnings. 3 operators died because the extraction point was compromised. A tragedy, Iskinder agreed, but hardly my responsibility. Except you made sure the surviving team members were scattered, officially declared dead. Alara took a step closer. Then you waited, building your private security consultancy while maintaining your military position. The perfect cover to sell classified techniques to the highest bidder. Savage, pale and sweating, blurted out, "She knows everything. I told you we should have eliminated all the ghost operators years ago." Silence, Iskinder snapped, but the damage was done. Lieutenant, Alara said without taking her eyes off Iskinder, please inform Master Sergeant Rendell that we need a security team in here now. Halford moved toward the door, but stopped as the distinctive sound of a helicopter approached rapidly from the east. That would be my insurance policy, Iskinder said calmly. Did you really think I came here without backup? The helicopter spotlights illuminated the hangar through the windows as it descended toward the tarmac outside. Alara's radio crackled with Rendell's voice reporting armed men deploying from the aircraft. It's over, Alara, Iskinder said. Those men aren't mercenaries. They're private security contractors with legal authorization to protect a decorated general. How will it look when you've detained me without evidence or proper authority? I have all the evidence I need. Alara nodded toward Savage. The colonel's already talking, and Vance will be next. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Iskinder's face. Vance is dead. Is he? Alara allowed herself a small smile. Strange that his facial recognition hit in Athens just yesterday, almost as if someone wanted us to think he was involved. Outside, shouting commenced as Rendell's security team confronted the newly arrived contractors. The standoff was escalating quickly. General Calloway has already contacted Central Command, Alara continued. The real communication logs from Carvar have been unsealed. They show that you personally rerouted the extraction team despite direct intelligence warning of compromise. Iskinder's composure finally cracked. You have no idea what was at stake. The program was becoming a liability. Too expensive, too independent. The oversight committee was going to shut us down regardless. At least this way, I could control the narrative. By sacrificing your own operators? Halford asked, disgust evident in his voice. By ensuring the techniques we developed wouldn't die with some bureaucrat's budget cut, Iskinder snapped. Do you know what private firms pay for that kind of specialized knowledge? The program lives on through my company. The mission continues. Except now, you're serving the highest bidder instead of your country, Ilara said quietly, and American operatives are dying because of it. The hangar doors burst open as both security teams entered, weapons raised, shouting contradictory orders. In the confusion, Iskinder reached into his jacket. Ilara moved instantly, tackling him to the ground as he withdrew not a weapon, but a small device with a single button. Dead man's switch, she warned, pinning his arm. Everyone stand down. The security teams froze, uncertain who had authority. General Calloway's voice cut through the chaos as he entered the hangar. All personnel, stand down by order of Central Command. General Iskinder is relieved of duty pending investigation for treason. Gradually, the contractors lowered their weapons. Rendell's team moved in to secure Iskinder, carefully taking possession of the device. It's over, Thomas, Calloway said, as Iskinder was helped to his feet. The Ghost program deserved better than this. They deserved to be honored, not erased and exploited. They were weapons, Iskinder replied bitterly. I simply found them a new target. As he was led away, Ilara stood silently watching. Halford approached cautiously. Commander? Are you all right? It was never about recognition, she said quietly. It was about respect for the sacrifice. He took that from us, from those who died. General Calloway joined them. The intelligence division will need your full debrief, and then we need to discuss your future, Commander. My future died in Karvar, Ilara replied. I just came back to set things right. Perhaps, Calloway said, but your country still needs people like you, maybe not in the shadows anymore. The rain had stopped outside, dawn beginning to break over the distant mountains. A new day, Ilara thought. One where the ghosts of the past might finally rest. The memorial wall stood silent in the evening light. The facility quieted for the night shift. Ilara stood alone before it, her finger tracing the empty space where her unit's insignia should have been. The gap in the timeline that officially never existed. Footsteps approached from behind, deliberate enough to announce presence rather than surprise. Colonel Thaddeus Iskinder, no relation to the disgraced general, moved to stand beside her, his slight limp a reminder of old injuries never properly healed. They still don't know what to do with our legacy, he observed, following her gaze to the empty space. Some legacies aren't meant for display cases, Ilara replied. I requested you specifically, Iskinder admitted. Could have brought in analysts, counterintelligence, but they wouldn't see what you see. Because they were never taught to look. Iskinder nodded. The world's changed, Ilara. The shadows we operated in are disappearing. Sometimes the most invisible among us need to step into the light, if only to show the new generation what sacrifice really means. Ilara considered this, then slowly removed her jacket. She turned it inside out, revealing the full insignia sewn into the lining, midnight blue with silver threading, a symbol that had never been officially acknowledged. Then perhaps it's time they knew who really guards the shadows. She handed the jacket to Iskinder, who accepted it with reverence. As they walked away, Lieutenant Halford emerged from the doorway where he'd been standing unnoticed. He approached the memorial wall and stared at the empty space where their insignia should have been. Slowly, deliberately, he rendered a perfect salute to the blank space and the invisible heroes it represented. In the morning, when the recruits arrived for briefing, they found something new in the display case, a faded field jacket with a patch sewn inside, accompanied by a simple plaque. To those who serve without recognition, from those who sleep peacefully unaware. And beneath it, a smaller line. Valkyrie Unit, 2008 to 2016, no names, no medals, no regrets. Elsewhere in the facility, General Calloway signed the final documents officially acknowledging the existence of Special Reconnaissance Unit 27, codenamed Valkyrie. Classification remained at the highest level, but the unit would no longer be erased from history. Ilara watched from the doorway as he completed the paperwork. Second thoughts, General? About doing what's right? Never. He gestured for her to enter. The question is, what will you do now? Your official status has been restored, full rank, benefits, the option to remain in service if you wish. I've had enough of service, Ilara replied, but there are others, from other units like mine, still living in shadows, still carrying burdens no one acknowledges. You want to find them, Calloway surmised. Bring them back into the light. Someone should. She accepted the folder he handed her, her official reinstatement to life. Lieutenant Halford has requested assignment to the new Special Recognition Division, Calloway mentioned. Says he wants to learn from you while you're still here. A smile flickered across Ilara's face. He'll do well. He sees what others miss. Like someone else I know. Calloway stood and offered his hand. Whatever you decide, Commander Thorne, know that your country is grateful, even if we took too long to say it. Later that day, Ilara found Halford in the training center, working with new recruits. She watched from the observation deck as he patiently corrected their technique, his manner respectful but firm. When the session ended, she approached him. General Calloway tells me you've requested special assignment, she said without preamble. Yes, ma'am. Halford stood straighter. If you'll have me. It won't be glamorous work, finding people who don't want to be found, convincing them their service still matters. With respect, Commander, that sounds like the most important work there is. Ilara studied him, seeing something of herself at that age before the shadows had claimed so many years. We leave at 0600 tomorrow. Pack light. As she turned to go, Halford called after her. Commander, that jacket in the display case. Was it really your teammate's? Ilara paused. His name was Marcus Devereaux. He died making sure the rest of us could complete the mission. The jacket was all they recovered. Thank you for telling me his name, Halford said quietly. Names matter, Lieutenant. Even the ones history tries to forget. Ilara continued walking, her steps lighter than they had been in 16 years. The burden of silence had finally been lifted, not just from her shoulders, but from all those who had served in the shadows.